This week we begin the new cycle of reading Sefer Bereshis, the first parsha, the first Torah reading of the year. But before we discuss it, obviously I want to speak for a few moments about what's happened in the world the past week, as it's been very difficult for everyone, for all of us, to see and hear all the pain and all the suffering. And it's very hard. And that's okay, and that's normal, and it should be hard. Sometimes difficult things happen in the world, and we don't have an explanation for them, and we're not supposed to have an explanation for them. We accept them. But we accept them with a heavy heart, and that itself is doing something. When people come and they ask me, what could I do? What could I do? It seems so far away. So obviously you could always pray. Prayer works in every scenario. But sometimes just thinking about it and doing nothing, that's also helping. That's showing God that you care. That's showing God that you emphasize with the people who are suffering. And that's something great. We should never minimize just the fact that we care. Not always are big actions able to be done and big things able to be accomplished on our end, but caring itself, we shouldn't underestimate how meaningful it is to God. And to begin the new year, the new weekly portion, I want to begin with this message to always care about other people, always care what's going on, even though you don't know them, you never saw it, you never heard of them, you don't know their names, but just the knowledge that people are suffering and to care about them, it truly means a great amount to God, and that's one of the keys that God is looking for in order to bring the salvation. I'll continue with the singing of Lechadodi, the song we sing Friday night, written by the great Rabbi of Shlomo Alkabetz in the late 1400s. Lechadodi lekras kala pnei Shabbos nekabela lechadodi lekras kala pnei Shabbos nekabela shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad Ishmiyanu kel hamyuchad Hashem echad Ushma hoyachad L'shemo seferes v'lesila Chad odi l'kras kala Nehi Shabbos nekabela L'kras Shabbos l'chuvin elcha Ki hi mekor ha-beracha meirosh mikedem nesucha Sov ma'aseh b'machshavot chila lecha dodi lekras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela mikdash melech Ir melucha kumitzi mitoch ha'afecha Rav lach shevet b'yemekabacha V'hu yachamol alayichem la'lecha dodi lekras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela Hisnari me'afar kumi Livshi bigdei sefartei chalmi al yad v'ni shai beis halachmi Karva el nafshi gi yahala lecha dodi lekras kala Nehi Shabbos nekabela Hisahoreri Kiva horechu miyori Uri, shir dabering Evod Hashem alayich nigla Lecha dodi lekras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela V'hayu l'mshisa shahosayich V'rachaku kameh v'halayich Yasis alayich elokayich Kim sozcha sanal kala lecha dodi lekras kala Pnei Shabbos nekabela yamin usmal tehefrotzi v'yes Hashem daritzi Al Yad Ben Yishai Beis Oloch Mikarva El Nafshi Yala Lecha Dodi Likras Kala Pnei Shabbos Nekavela Bawi B'Shalom Atares Ba'ala Gamberina Ovitzahala Tochemune Yam Segula Ba'wikala Lecha Dodi Likras Kala Pnei Shabbos Nekavela. The Torah reading begins with the creation of the world. God in 7 days begins the creation of the world. He creates light and darkness, heavens and earth, water, plants, animals, birds, fish, and mankind at the end. And the final day is a day of rest, Shabbat is a day of rest. And that's the end. But it's interesting to note that had a day on its own. And the language of the Torah is God created Shabbos. He created rest. Well, how do you create rest? Really, you don't create rest. You have rest by doing nothing. So what does it mean that God created a day of rest? So the explanation is quite beautiful. That we live lives, we always think we have to do in order to accomplish. Sometimes by reflecting, by doing nothing, that itself is very important. Doing nothing and thinking about nothing, that might not be too important, but when you do nothing, that you reflect on the things you've done the past week, that's very powerful as well. And that's what the day of Shabbat represents. It's not just a day to rest and do nothing, it's a day to rest, but reflect on your previous week. How was my week? Was I kind to someone? Did I do good acts? Was I a good person? Was I not such a good person? Do I have to make my week better or not? All these are ways that we can make Shabbat great. And as we enter the first Shabbat, so I propose to talk about upcoming Shabbat and to think and to reflect exactly on what's been happening in the world and think about ways we can make the world a better place. We're now finished with the singing of Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'Terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'es Nasa B'Chevso Kol Azai Mehalech Shemo Nikra V'Yacharei Kechlos HaKol Levahado Yimloch Nora V'Haya V'Hoveh V'Yiyeh B'Sifara V'Hu Echad V'Yein Sheni Hamshilo Lehachvira Bili Reishis, Bili Sachlis, Velo Hod, V'Hamizra, V'Hu Keli, V'Chai Goali, V'Tzor Chevli, V'Yes Nasa, V'Hu Nisi, Umanosli, Minas Kosi, B'Yom Ekra, B'Yahado, Avkid Ruchi, V'yesishan v'yahira v'yemrochi gev'yasi ado shemli v'lo v'ira. And have a happy and healthy week, a great weekend, a great Shabbat. We'll see everybody next week.